There's a version of you that applies for the job, negotiates the salary, launches the idea, invests the money, asks for the table by the window instead of quietly taking whatever's left. And here's the wild part, that version of you isn't smarter, isn't more talented, doesn't have some secret personality trait you were born without. That version of you just isn't broke anymore. Today we're talking about something personal finance never covers, the psychological identity flip that happens when you finally reach financial stability. Not wealth, not retirement, just stable. Because the research is clear, the biggest thing that changes isn't your bank account, it's who you think you are. Let's get into it. First, let's be exact about what we mean by financial stability, because this is not about being rich. Financial stability is a specific condition. Your monthly income covers your expenses with some left over, you have an emergency fund that can absorb a real curveball, say your transmission gives out or an ER visit lands out of nowhere, and you are not currently in an active financial crisis. That's it. You might still have student loans. You might rent a one-bedroom with a roommate. Your 401k might be thinner than you'd like, but you are not drowning. You can see next month. You can breathe. And that breathing, that specific exhale, rewires something deep. 1. Your gut-level assumption about the future reverses. When money has historically been chaotic, when you've been the person whose debit card got declined at the Walgreens register, whose car repair wiped out 2 months of savings, your brain learns to predict chaos. That's not being a pessimist. That's your brain doing its job accurately based on evidence. But once stability holds for a few months, the prediction model updates. The future starts feeling less like a threat incoming and more like a direction you can steer toward. This matters in a very specific, practical way. People who expect negative outcomes systematically underapply. For jobs, promotions, grants, opportunities, they pre-reject themselves before anyone else gets the chance. Once that default assumption flips, the application rate goes up. And higher application rates produce better outcomes, even when the skill level stays exactly the same. 2. The cost of failure drops below crisis level. In survival mode, taking a risk isn't just nerve-wracking, it's genuinely dangerous. If you've got zero financial margin and a side hustle fails, or a job negotiation goes sideways, the consequences can cascade fast. So you don't try a lot of things. Avoidance isn't weakness, it's a rational response to a real threat. Stability changes the math. Now if you try and fail, you've got a cushion. The failure is disappointing. It's not a disaster. The Kauffman Foundation, they study entrepreneurship specifically, found that having a financial safety net is a stronger predictor of someone actually starting a business than having a business degree, taking entrepreneurship courses, or even just wanting to start a business. The myth is that entrepreneurs are these fearless risk takers who charge into the unknown. The data says most of them just had enough saved up that the risk became tolerable. 3. Your brain gets its bandwidth back. Here's one that hits different when you've lived it. Financial stress doesn't just feel bad. It literally occupies cognitive space, the working memory your brain uses to think, plan, and make decisions. Research out of Princeton found that people dealing with financial scarcity showed measurable drops in cognitive performance, roughly equivalent to losing a full night of sleep every single day, just from the mental load of managing financial pressure. That's not a personality flaw. That's cognitive science. When stability arrives, that bandwidth frees up. Suddenly people describe having time to read, to think 3 moves ahead at work, to finally sign up for that certification, and to actually be present in conversations. None of those things were literally impossible before. They just required more energy than was left in the tank. The move here, if you've recently hit stability, is to deploy that bandwidth intentionally. Not just into rest, though rest matters. Into the things that compound, skills, relationships, health habits. The mental space is an asset. Treat it like one. 4. Your social life quietly reorganizes. Financial stress generates specific social behaviors that feel completely normal from the inside. Dodging group dinners, going quiet when money comes up in conversation, low-key resenting the coworker who seems to have it together, and putting on a performance of stability you don't actually have. These feel like personality. They're not. They're adaptations. When stability lands, those adaptations quietly dissolve. You stop ghost-quitting social situations. You start actually engaging in conversations about money, and that matters more than people realize. In the US, access to financial information through personal networks. The friend who mentions a real estate opportunity, the colleague who explains how their Roth conversion strategy works over lunch, is one of the primary ways financial knowledge travels. People who've checked out of those conversations miss it. There's also just an energy shift that other people notice. Financially stable people tend to negotiate better because they can afford to walk away. They make better professional partners because they're not making decisions from a position of desperation. Opportunity notices that. 5. The voice in your head changes its tune. This one's the most personal. In financial stress, there's a constant low-level mental ticker tape running, calculating, worrying, and rehearsing worst-case scenarios. It's not something you turn on. It runs automatically. It just drains you. In stability, that tape gets quieter. The internal question shifts from "can I even cover this?" to "how do I make this work?" And that's not just a semantic difference. It's a cognitive posture difference. Research on emotional states and problem-solving consistently shows that people in more positive baseline states generate more solutions, spot more opportunities, and make better decisions under pressure. The quiet isn't just comfortable. It's productive. Here's the catch nobody talks about. The numbers change faster than identity does. Psychologists call it identity inertia, the tendency for your self-concept to lag behind your actual circumstances. You can reach stability and still be mentally operating like someone who's one car repair away from a meltdown, because that's the software that's been running for years. This is why some people hit stability and still under-negotiate, still decline opportunities, still spend like they're saving up for a crisis that's already over. Closing that gap is deliberate work. It means actively telling yourself, my situation has changed, which means some of my assumptions about what I'm allowed to pursue are probably outdated. And then testing that. Applying for the thing. Making the ask. Having the money conversation. Each small win updates the internal model a little more. That's how the identity catches up. Let me give you someone concrete. Marcus is 34. Grew up in Memphis, first in his family to finish college. Spent most of his 20s juggling 2 jobs to handle student loans and help his mom cover some bills when things got tight. He knew what a Roth IRA was. He knew he should be investing. He never did, not because he was irresponsible but because there was genuinely nothing left, and his brain was genuinely too maxed out to engage with something that felt distant. At 32, he got a hospital administration job that bumped his income by about $18,000 a year. Within 14 months, he had a $10,000 emergency fund. He stopped carrying a balance on his credit card. The emergencies didn't stop. His water heater went out, his dog needed surgery, but they stopped being emergencies. They were just inconveniences. Then something shifted. He asked for a raise he'd been putting off for 2 years. Got it. He applied for a director-level role he would have talked himself out of before. Got to final round. He started maxing his Roth. He started asking his financially savvy coworkers how they were thinking about their money, conversations he would have avoided before because they made him feel exposed. Marcus didn't transform into a different person. He just got access to a version of himself that had been waiting behind the financial wall the whole time. Here's what I want to leave you with. If you're not at stability yet, the work to get there is worth it beyond the obvious reasons. Not just for the math. For the person you get access to on the other side of it. And if you've recently crossed that line, don't coast through it in recovery mode. The shift has already started. The question is whether you're going to use it. Drop a comment. What was the first thing that changed for you when money stopped being a constant crisis? I'm genuinely curious. Subscribe if this kind of analysis is what you're here for. New video every week. See you then.